Well, now, let's go to our major conversation for tonight. We're following up on the activities of government on the situation as relating to the aftermath of the xenophobic attacks on Nigerians and other foreign nationals in South Africa. It's the day after the Nigerian Special Envoy arrived South Africa, and the leadership of the House of Representatives today has come forward to lend a helping hand to those who are victims of the attacks. The House will authorize funding for victims of the xenophobic attacks in South Africa who wish to take legal action against the perpetrators. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, disclosed it to journalists earlier today.
Entirely, the obvious attempt to change the true narrative of events by casting the recently organized acts of violence as merely internecine conflict between gangs fighting for turf. The House of Representatives is ready to authorize legal funding for those citizens who wish to take legal action against identified perpetrators of the violence, as well as those who sponsored them or permitted their actions.
No, the federal government is not considering severing ties with South Africa. That's according to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyema, who was also speaking after a meeting with the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs.
The stage of diplomatic ties called off. There are various options. We're not by any means at the stage where we're breaking diplomatic relations with South Africa. We know for a fact that no Nigerian life has been lost, so we're extremely concerned now to ensure that there will be adequate compensation for the property that has been lost and damaged.
Well, according to the Speaker, Mr. Gbajabiamila, the House will invite the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Nigerian Ambassador to South Africa, and the Chairman of the Diaspora Commission for further investigation and solutions to ensure that the incident never occurs again. Let's get talking, everyone, on the latest developments, perhaps the economic implication of these, what's the intervention of the House of Representatives, the National Assembly. We've heard the executive speak about this, the implication of the special envoy and the briefing the president will be getting, all of these together. Guess what's talking tonight, everyone? So, Mr. Tokwe Fasua, presidential candidate of the ANRP in the 2019 election, joins us. He's also the national chairman of the ANRP. And Honorable Wes Ida Osa, a policy and governance expert and a former member of the House of Representatives. Both of them are in our studio here in Abuja. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Indeed, what a time it is. On a day also where the revolutionary fighter for the emancipation of the people of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, died today. And a lot of issues happening in Africa. And a lot of Nigerians have reacted differently on what this means for Nigeria. Perhaps we should look at the economic implication. If you look at it, about 500 million US dollars, that is the import capital that Nigeria, that comes into Nigeria from South Africa. But if you look at the export capital, it's about 60 billion US dollars. What is the economic implication of this? The minister said they're not severing ties with Nigeria, with South Africa.
All right, thank you very much. It is what it is, really. Those are the great figures that you've mentioned. And the point is, what are we getting from there? A lot of the inflows may actually come under the radar, because of the kind of people we have there in the main. I think what's very important for me to see in all of this is that our problem is not only South Africa. The point is that our economy isn't doing that well. And then we have a lot of our young people running all over the place, including South Africa. Now, we also must understand the history of South Africa. It's been a very bloody history from the time the Boers were going in there, all those Dutch people and all of that, and the kind of resistance they had. We can also see that a lot of their leaders have the kind of rhetoric that they used to win election. Is all that kind of rhetoric that says, look, we have to push out all these foreigners and so on. And you can see that the reaction that we had, a lot of our people, destroying ShopRite, destroying shops, even stopping SUVs on the road. We're just hurting ourselves. However, there's also a dangerous twist to that. Because it's like when wild animals taste human blood, will they, sometimes you have to put them down, So now that people are, have stopped a couple of jeeps, strip them and, have those people running around, we need to be very careful lest it becomes a habit, So the reaction has also been that we have hurt ourselves. A lot of those ShopRites, the locations and all the ancillary businesses around it, even within ShopRite, the guy was complaining, he's a supplier to ShopRite, he's wondering how he's going to get his money and all that. We're just hurting ourselves. Because international business these days have been able to ring-fence themselves and outsource a lot of things. ShopRite doesn't own any business, any building in Nigeria. Of course, yes, it's an avenue for bringing goods from South Africa to sell here. And come to think of it, ShopRite in South Africa is patronized by very poor people, which tells you the level of our own, if you like, backwardness. Because here we are fretting about ShopRite. And, most well-to-do people, middle-class people, they wonder, in South Africa, what are these guys fretting about? ShopRite is such a big deal. Of course, MTN is there. Of course, it has also Nigerian shareholders and what have you, who are going to hurt from this. I think that the most important lesson for me here is Nigeria needs to hunker down, get serious, and fix this economy. We've been saying it for too long. All right? Again, it's not about South Africa alone. In Ghana, they're chasing our people. In Gabon, they're deporting our people. In Cameroon, in Libya, as bad as things are. All right? Not talk of the entire Europe, the whole of Southeast Asia and all of that, the number of youth in jails in different places. Nothing has said it more eloquently, because at the end of the day, I personally, I have absolutely no sense of entitlement in my life. That's one quirk I have, I don't, if you say, leave my thing, I leave your thing. Because I believe, I don't know, I have this funny idea that I can always try and achieve something on my own. Right. And I think that's the pride that we need to have as a people. We can't say we must stay in their country by force.
Interestingly, you're a policy and governance expert. You're also a lawyer, and you have experience in the parliament. The parliament has weighed in on this one. We've heard the executive and what they said they would do. A lot of people have applauded the executives that the move they made is apt, is good. But the parliament in Nigeria, their move today and what they said they were going to do. What's your reaction to it?
Well, I think it's very commendable. You first have to applaud the Speaker. This is the first time that we have had the Speaker of the House of Reps address the media by himself, flanked by his principal officers, and reeling out serious concerns and promising to even fund aggrieved persons with respect to litigation who may want to pursue their rights to recompense. Now, it's understandable that in the past, a lot of speakers, indeed legislative leaders, ended up treating the matter at committee levels, and at the end of the day, the appropriate legislative response was not generated. Irrespective of what may have caused the xenophobic attack on Nigerians, it is very significant to note that the country's Supreme Parliament, which is the elected parliament of Nigeria, has reacted.
Okay, let me pause you. Sorry, apologies. We need to take this break. But when we come back, there are far-reaching implications of whatever has happened between South Africa and Nigeria. Don't forget, the APC national chairman said yesterday that Nigeria should nationalize some of the businesses in South Africa. What does this mean economically? We dissect all of that when we come back from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's continue with the conversation. Honorable West Ida, also policy and governance expert, a lawyer, and a former member of the House of Representatives, and also Mr. Tokwe Fasua, a former national chairman of the NRP and a former presidential candidate of the party at the 2019 presidential election. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming and sharing your thoughts tonight. Let me quickly get back to you, Honorable West Ida. Also, you were talking about your reaction to what the National Assembly is doing. They did say they are going to interrogate and investigate what has happened so that this will not happen in the future. But on a larger picture, we understand that the special envoy, which is the DG of the NIA, was landed in South Africa, has also met with President Cyril Ramaphosa in South Africa. Your reactions to this?
Well, that's a good move. I mean, it shows that for the first time in the last 20 years, the country is taking very massive approaches to deal with this xenophobia. And it is not a question of just talking. They are walking the talk. They are taking these diplomatic steps. They have recalled their envoy. They've sent a special envoy there. They are also looking at other measures of investigating what has happened and inviting their top government functionaries for elaborate discussion. So I think that it's left for the special envoy to brief the government on what has happened. But from the legislative point of view, which is my major interest in this matter, I am happy that this is happening. What is left to be done is for Parliament to have a conference with the Diaspora Commission and the ambassador to South Africa representing Nigeria, and then to the Foreign Affairs Minister. And then if that requires funding to insert for the first time some levels of alleviation of xenophobic victims for Nigeria, and that will speak a lot to the point that Nigeria means business, and then begin to consider other measures of economic caution to those who are perpetrating this xenophobic attack on Nigeria. For example, it is very interesting to note that Zambia and many others have led the way. There are simple steps you take diplomatically that send a big message. And the biggest of it all was that recently, Madagascar, who had even agreed to take the slot of Zambia in a football encounter with Bafana, had again declined. They had seen the mood of Africa. Their brothers and sisters were angry with South Africa. Why would they go there and play the good boy? They have just this evening or so said to us that we cannot come. We are not also sure of our safety.
Well, Honorable Idahosa, do you think South Africa will compensate Nigerians who have lost out in their businesses? Because that is one of also the clauses that were laid on the cat on the table. Do you think South Africa will be willing to compensate? We do not know the details of the meeting with the special envoy and the president of South Africa. That briefing will be given to the president. But do you think, diplomatically speaking, that might be possible?
Well, if you listen to what their foreign minister said on the last count, she was very emphatic that they were not going to do that, and in fact went for to make allegations of criminal practices against our citizens with respect to the nature of business that they do carry out in South Africa. Now, while that was a very condemnable, sweeping statement, I believe that she spoke the mind of the government of South Africa, no question about that. And unless there's a dramatic change of mind following the meeting with the special envoy, not much is expected from that direction. So that is what is to elicit the economic response, because what is going on now is an economic war, period. While South African giants in terms of conglomerates and businesses are here exploiting the Nigerian people, and the Nigerian people are reacting by just following. There's no amount of bouquet, and no amount of bouquet that the South African governments have, companies have introduced by way of DSTV and the rest, and the prices they put on those bouquets that Nigerians have not followed. So if Nigerians are making a couple of gains, what I consider under gains, low time gains from your country, is that a reason?
All right. Let's come to this issue of the nationalization of some of the business interests of South Africans. That's what Adams Oshiomhole, the chairman of the APC, the statement he made. Is that a good move to make?
Certainly not. Nationalization is a very archaic term anywhere in the world. I'm an economist, and however, I'll probably say I'm a left of center economist, but we don't, that doesn't even jive at all. One, if we took over their companies, it's like you're stealing their companies. Why don't you create your own companies? It also brings to question the issue of what we call economic complexity. I've always said it here on this platform that I don't believe that even this Nigerian economy is as big as the South African economy, because it's about economic complexity, which is the knowledge quotient that goes into the goods that you export. So here we're talking of MTN, we're talking of DSTV. Those are tech products, right? And so where were we? You know what I'm saying? What do we have to sell?
Some experts will also make reference to BP when it was
That
nationalized.
was in the olden days.
AP.
What did we do with AP? What happened to AP? What happened to national oil? You know, before it was bought over by Connoy, by Adenuga. You know, what happened to them? So if you take them over, you're going to run them aground. We don't have the capacity. You don't wait for people to and then look for opportunities to take over their companies. No, I certainly don't believe in that. Mind you, this brings into question the economic, structure of South Africa itself. 85% of that economy is run by white people. The black people are the ones that are attacking our people. It's black on black violence. The white people aren't saying anything that, in fact, part of the problem is that the blacks there complain that the white people prefer to employ Nigerians, Zambians, Zimbabweans, and so on, rather than employ them. And the reason why that is so is because of the history between the whites and the blacks in South Africa. They know that if they employ the blacks there, they're going to have a lot of issues. So, I mean, here is a Nigerian guy hustling, ready to work. They take him on. So, again, President Ramaphosa himself, and several ministers have said and repeated the only person that has been consistent in defending, the Ubuntu and all that is Malema. It's only Malema that has actually been saying and been very. However, I would also say I would not want Femi Gbajabiamila and all the big men in government to run away from this responsibility. Nigeria is like the father of a house whose children are causing nuisance all over the place, and people are complaining about them, and people are shutting their gates, right? That's what it has become. If it was just if it was just like Nigeria, Ghana that happened before, it's okay. But if it's Nigeria versus Ghana versus South Africa versus Cote d'Ivoire versus Gabon versus Libya versus Greece versus China, Thailand, then we have a problem.
All right, let's close the program, and I want us to close in one statement. Sometimes a lot of people criticize me for thinking on the left sometimes. The worst case scenario, should all our cards on the table and the clauses that we put to the South African government to go by, if they do not go by it, what do you think could be a possible move by Nigeria? Economic sanction or what? Just in the statement, please. Let me start with you.
No, I'd say not economic sanction. I'll say the diplomatic sanction. For example, we can decide to send recall our ambassador, send theirs away, keep it on that platform. Right. And then I think that would be more effective.
Worst case scenario, what do you think is an option left for Nigeria?
Diplomatic sanctions, mobilize AU, and get regional sanctions against South Africa.
Economic sanction out of the options.
We don't even have the strength.
Diplomatic sanctions.
All right.
Get Africa against them.
Okay, let's hope that we get the best out of this situation, and our people are safe wherever they are. Thank you so much, Honorable Wesley Dawes, policy and governance expert, a former lawmaker and a lawyer. Mr. Tokwe Fasua, the national chairman of the NRP and the presidential candidate of the party at the 2019 presidential election. Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks so much for watching. I'm Sean Okimale. Have a wonderful weekend.